Part 81. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 806. Inside the castle. Shen Jian glanced at the scarlet panel. Turning his eyes on the wishing ghost again, he stretched out his hand a little, and the wishing ghost tattoo under his wrist broke away from his hand and swam to the wall, forming a ferocious evil ghost pattern. This wishing ghost is one of the keys to enter Nanli Ghost Town. It once possessed a female player in the Ghost Bride instance and fell into a deep sleep. It was not until the Sweet Home instance that he went to the supernatural game park to help ghosts. It was a birthday gift from my mother-in-law, so I met this female player again and took away this ghost tattoo. And the supernatural power of this ghost is to make a wish. Players can make wishes for Ligui to fulfill their wishes, but at the same time, players need to pay a price. Depending on the difficulty of the wish, the price charged by Ligui will also increase. Until it completely takes over the player's body. Get a few thousand of the rifles just now to test the water, and bullets. Let's get 100,000 first. Shen Jian said. Wishing ghost. Crooked son. You really don't know how expensive things are. Thousands of rifles, 100,000 bullets, you think I specialize in exploding gold coins? Well, in your case I can only explode gold coins, but there must be a limit to exploding gold coins. You usually come to me to wish for things like eggplant, special 3-point clothing, enhancing female ghost senses tenfold, etc. Although ridiculous, at least they are still within my supernatural scope. But now you don't treat me as a human being. No dog works so hard. Then he said cautiously, Master, I can't explode so many gold coins. Although these things are not supernatural objects, their internal mechanisms are extremely sophisticated. I can make at most 50 of them a day, but I can't do more. Plus, if we make bullets, we can't guarantee even 20 bullets a day. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. 20 guns a day, if you want to collect tens of thousands of firearms, it will take 500 days, more than a year and a half. What a joke. If he was asked to wait for so long, he might as well completely mess up this place and let the underworld allocate some of its effective forces to suppress the riot. Little did I know. When these words fell into the ears of ghost scribe Kali Till, they were like the sound of nature. 1,000 firearms can kill a ghost and god, and tens of thousands of firearms can completely defeat the 4 realms. It only takes a year and a half. It has only been 4 years since the king contest trial. The rest of the year is completely their home field. By then, the 4 princes will achieve unprecedented results. During the king's trial, they will unify the 4 realms and become the most powerful crown prince in history. No one can compete with it. Just thinking about it. She suddenly saw Shen Jian frowning slightly and asked, Your Highness, aren't you satisfied with this speed? We can stay dormant for a year and a half. By then, whether it is the eldest prince, the second prince, or the third prince, the princess and her daughter are no match for you, and your name will reverberate throughout the 4 realms. Too slow. Shen Jian was non-committal and said with a deep expression. Kali Tir became puzzled and didn't understand what Shen Jian was anxious about. Think about it. She pursed her red lips and said, Your Highness, I just looked at this gun and found that the parts inside are indeed too fine. This is definitely not a semi-finished product, but a perfect finished product that has been updated countless times. Perhaps, we don't need such sophisticated weapons, and it doesn't matter if they are simpler. After all, Your Highness, you said that the bullet is the key. As for the firearm, it is considered a success if it can fire the bullet. Hear this. Shen Jian was startled. Really? He lives in modern society, and he preconceptionally believes that the firearms of this era are the best, but don't forget, what he has to deal with is just a group of ghosts with a medieval background. In the Eli Empire, where everyone is unarmed and cold weapons and supernatural beings are rampant, only the most ordinary flintlock rifle can sweep the battlefield. As for this kind of craft, as long as you know the blueprints, you can create it even if you leave it to a craftsman in a border town. In this case, he is completely capable of division of labor and cooperation. Let the wishing ghost tattoo do its best to make bullets, and the gun part is left to the ghost craftsman here to make it. As for the production problem, just expand the scale. Otherwise, what is the use of attacking cities and seizing those territories? Think of this. Shen Jian suddenly understood. His eyes fell on the wishing ghost. Soon, a crude flintlock gun appeared out of thin air. This is the unnatural thing about wishing ghosts. Even if he doesn't know the manufacturing process of the flintlock gun, the wishing ghost can make it out of thin air. With this, and letting the craftsman here build it according to the template, he will be able to get a steady stream of flintlock guns. Shen Jian handed over this job to the ghost town mayor. The other party is the supernatural master of the border town. He knows the most about the situation here and knows where there are ghost craftsmen. The ghost mayor took the flintlock gun with excitement. This is not a weapon, this is clearly his hope of being granted a title. With this thought, he couldn't wait to turn around and leave. Subsequently, Shen Jian looked at the ghost secretary Katir. Under the dim light, this top noble lady stood quietly aside. Her clear and deep blue eyes were like beautiful gems, and her crystal clear red lips were pursed. With her elegant and charming smile, noble temperament, and stunning appearance, the sister of the Duke of Cali unconsciously attracted everyone's attention. Apparently, Kali-Tir also noticed Shen Jian's eyes. She stared at the handsome features that made people unable to move their gaze. Her eyes dodged involuntarily and her heart beat faster. Before doing it instead. Even if the fourth prince looked at her like this, she would not react at all, and even felt very disgusted and despised. But now, the fourth prince in front of him was completely different from before. Being stared directly at like that made her a little confused. "Your Highness, do I have something on me?" She touched her cheek to hide her panic. Shen Jian did not answer, but asked instead, "Miss Tyre, someone told you that you are on the same level as Duke Hillis of the Inoadan family. Duke Hillis is a rose with thorns, and you, is the double-flowered lotus in the snow pond." Kali-Til looked sheepish. Comparing her with Duke Silas, one of the four holy dukes who stands at the pinnacle of the empire, this is definitely the highest praise. "Your Highness, I'm still far from it, but are you familiar with the teacher, Your Highness?" "Teacher?" Shen Jian was startled. The ghost clerk nodded. "Duke Ceres was my first teacher. I lived in the Duke's house for a while and received her guidance." Here. There was a bit of strange color in Shen Jian's eyes. He really didn't expect that ghost Duke Silas and Kali-Tir had a master-disciple status. But this seems even better. Master and disciple. Concentrate your thoughts. Shen Jian said vaguely, "I do have some friendship with Duke Hillis." The ghost secretary was dubious. With His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince's original reputation, if he appeared in front of the teacher or struck up a conversation with him, would he really not be punished by the teacher? She knew that what the teacher hated most were playboys like the Fourth Prince. Coupled with his status as a teacher, even if he really beat the Fourth Prince, the royal family would pretend they didn't see it. This is probably what His Highness is referring to by friendship. Never mind. It's better not to expose His Highness. After all, now His Highness also needs face. Think about it this way. Kali-Tir snickered and wisely stopped asking any more questions. Shen Jian also began to change the topic. "Now the problem of the flintlock gun has been solved, but we still have a problem, and that is the ghost craftsman. The wishing ghost can make bullets in batches, that's enough, but in this case, the manufacturing of flintlock guns can only be left to the ghost craftsman here, and even if 1 or 2 ghost craftsmen work 24 hours a day, the production capacity will not be. No matter how high it is, we still need a lot of ghost craftsmen. The ghost secretary muttered twice, "Your Highness, we can go to Erlano. There are many interesting and novel things in his territory. It was this that attracted you to come there, and behind these novel and interesting things, there is no support from ghost craftsmen." Shen Jian nodded slightly. Count Ano, this was not the first time he heard this name. When the fourth prince experienced the accident, he was planning to go to Erlano's territory. Medieval nobility was divided into dukes, marquises, counts, viscounts, barons. The earl is ranked third, and his territory is a 4-star supernatural land at the lowest level, and it may even be a 5-star supernatural land. When he first entered the copy of Olympus and was looking for the host of dragon energy, he went to the fief of a count and encountered a ghost. As you can imagine, the earl's status in the Eli Empire is definitely not low. "Okay, I'll go there," Shen Jian said. He has not forgotten that the side mission branch he opened is to get the support of any noble. Kali Tir said subconsciously, "Your Highness, you want to go by yourself now? If not..." The ghost secretary hesitated to speak. Although His Highness has now changed and has the ability to dominate the 4 realms, it has not yet been achieved. It is simply impossible to get an earl to support him. Count Ano may not believe you, Your Highness. She considered it? No, he will believe it. The corners of Shen Jian's lips curled up. The hidden mission required him to attack the city as a lord, but this time he was not going to attack the city. His purpose was just to invite all the craftsmen and forging craftsmen from the Earl territory to the small border town. Is this illegal? Is this illegal? No. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 807. The next day. Hanfan Ridge Viscount Mansion. The brown-haired, blue-eyed white player with the ID Adolf arrived early and bought a small warehouse, used as a temporary residence for players. At this time, a total of 8 players gathered here. 6 white, 2 black. All 8 of them are 4-star or above players, including 2 5-star players Adolf and Sam. It seems that there are only so many players in the western region. Others either can't make it or are waiting and watching. Adolf spoke first. As the player with the highest status at the start of the dungeon here, he naturally became the host, and he also had the vague intention of taking the lead. Now, we need to finalize the cooperation. Although this copy requires us to hide our identity, I guess that hiding the identity is only for the unknown mysterious existence. His existence destroys the balance of the game, so the thriller game not only compensates us, and we can prevent the other party from discovering our identity, so that we can have a chance of winning. As soon as this statement came out, the atmosphere on the field suddenly became solemn. The reason why they chose to take this gamble was not only because of the credibility of the Holy See organization, but also more importantly because of the superior existence that thriller games said. Fighting alone, they will never be this mysterious and rough opponent. Only by joining forces can they break the situation. The curly-haired black player with the ID Sam spoke not very fluent English, and his thick lips twitched. "Hey, guys, who do you think this person will be? If you can enter the thriller game copy, the other party must be human." But even the guy who was the first to be promoted to 5 stars is not qualified to receive such attention from thriller games, and he even thinks that we can't defeat him if we work together. At this time, a white player suddenly hesitated and said, "Brothers, have you ever considered that this person is not one of our Western players?" "What? Not long ago, I used magic to browse the supernatural forum in the Dragon Kingdom. I found that the forum was overwhelmingly discussing a Dragon Kingdom player with the game ID King of Yama. It is said that this Dragon Kingdom player became the king of the southern region. With his own power, he forcefully occupied the three game areas of Nanjiang District, Donglan District, and Jiangbei District, became the city lord of these three game areas, and modified the rules of the thriller game. Hear this. The other players also had an impression. Referring to the matter that caused a lot of commotion recently? I remember that it seemed that the people of the Dragon Kingdom had an extra resurrection authority. Isn't this fake news? Does anyone really believe it? We can't even become the city lord. They are a small country that lags behind us in the Western world. What capital does it have to become the city lord of three game areas? Indeed, it's nothing more than self-entertainment. The more a person lacks something, the more he will show it to outsiders. Buddy, you don't want to think that this mysterious existence is the person from the Dragon Kingdom. White and black players, your words and my words are full of contempt. A small country that was only selected by the thriller game more than half a year behind them, with not even a few 5-star players, why should it be ahead of their Western countries and become the city lord of three game areas? Is this possible? No. Only the new players are dubious about this kind of thing. Senior players like them, who have not been struggling in game dungeons for many years, in a dungeon like the local city lord's mansion that is close to a 5-star supernatural place, only the top Ghost King cannot take the position of city lord. And reaching the top Ghost King level in Terror is just one of the simplest requirements. Such as fame, power, and the final competition, these are prerequisites. For players to reach this point, the minimum threshold is level 80 or above. That is the level of 6-star players deduced by the Holy See. And now, the highest level player in the country is only level 56. There is still a gap between level 80 and level 80. Under such circumstances, how could anyone from the Dragon Kingdom become the city lord of the horror world? This may be true. However, just as the players laughed at this, the 5-star white player with the ID Adolf said something unexpectedly. Instantly, the whole place fell silent. They all looked over in confusion. I mean, since we can't be sure, it's better to treat it as true and assume that this mysterious existence is indeed the Dragon Kingdom person. What should we do? Adolf changed the subject and made a bold assumption. The other players murmured to themselves, this assumption is really exaggerated. But they didn't object. Because this assumption makes sense, after all, this imaginary enemy does exist. A white player pondered, if this is indeed the case, then our position is very clear. Kill him, but he is the city lord of three game areas. No matter how he does it, it is enough to prove one thing, he has the strength to rival the top Ghost Kings, and on the surface, we are no match at all. The black player added, if we want to kill him, we can only use the power of local NPCs. The top Ghost King is indeed difficult to kill, but that is in the horror world, and this is a deep ghost realm, which is higher than the horror world. Not to mention the royal family here is just our Duke of the West, and it would be enough to kill him, but the problem is, we can't confirm his identity, and we have no way of knowing where he is. Everyone started discussing. Eventually a consensus was reached. Test. A total of 50 players have entered the copy here, roughly scattered within the 4 major territories of the Eli Empire and the High Seas. What they need to do is to use the reputation of the Holy See to let the players reveal their GameElements. After a round of screening, they will let gather players in the same situation to meet each other and identify the Dragon Kingdom people hidden among them to the greatest extent. As long as this is confirmed, it is easy to kill the opponent. No doubt. This move will definitely alert others, but they don't care. If they don't eliminate this existence that disrupts the balance of the game first, no matter what they do, their chances of winning are not high. Certainly. Climbing up is just as important. If you don't work hard to improve your voice on the road to fighting for the king, even if you find the Dragon Kingdom people, they will not be able to make a ghost-level duke take their suggestions seriously. Besides, the efforts will be rewarded. Permission given by the thriller game is also a major weapon for them to win. Although they lag behind in terms of terror level, as long as they increase their strength and speed, the backlash caused by the resurrection of the evil ghost can be reduced, and even increased to a certain stage. Maybe they can control the fourth ghost, the fifth ghost, etc. Only ghosts can truly achieve a leap in strength. By then, let alone becoming a 5-star player, even if they are a 6-star player, they are not without hope. At the same time, Shen Jian also saw the remarks on the chat interface asking for the real game ID to be revealed, otherwise he would be regarded as an enemy. There were countless responders. Nearly half of the players chose to trust the Holy See and disclosed their information. The remaining half is also wavering. Will always respond to this. Shen Jian looked calm. There was no change in expression. Cattle and sheep only travel in groups, while wild beasts always travel alone. Whatever these white players were doing was a small thing to him. Yama is benevolent as long as it does not affect his ultimate goal. Thinking. Shen Jian stopped. My eyes fell on a medieval-style castle built on the edge of a cliff. The castle is a building block structure. The mechanical craftsmanship visible to the naked eye looks like a pieced-together mechanical castle that can change its appearance at any time. This is the territory of Erlano. According to Kali Tyre, Erlano is a staunch duke of the Southern Territory. Looking at the entire Southern Territory, he is also one of the top figures. Apart from the Duke of Elk and the two Marquises, he is the strongest in the Southern Territory. The fiefdom alone is the size of a third-tier city. And its core place is Shenjian's current location. The size of a single castle has reached the specifications of the main palace of the horror world city. On the threshold of crossing the 5-star supernatural land. This is the horror of the deep ghost realm. There are 6 Luofeng heavens, each of which is a world of its own. Coupled with unrestricted development, it gradually evolved into what it is today. In the face of the deep ghost realm, the 12 game areas of the horror world are simply not enough. This is also the reason why the managers of the horror world go to the deep ghost realm to seek development. With this thought, Shen's body moved. Disappear in place. When he reappeared, he had already passed the door and entered the castle. The purpose of his trip was to invite all the craftsmen in Erlano's territory to visit the border town. Among them, there was a key point that could not be avoided, and that was Erlano himself. If the other party disagrees, he will be very embarrassed. Therefore, he came to the Earl's palace first. I am going to discuss it with Erlano first. Soon. In the empty Earl's mansion, Shen Jian found a guide. Not far away. A big shame on the tree. Ghostly figures were hung on the branches. Taking a closer look, it was clearly the corpses of more than a dozen children. As Shen Jian approached, the dozens of corpses on the tree also reacted immediately. They opened their eyes one by one, and their heads suddenly turned 180 degrees with their backs to their bodies, and pale faces fell on Shen Jian. Intruder. Is there an intruder at Earl's palace? Where did this fool come from? You are walking here so openly. Even if you want to sneak in, you might as well disguise yourself and find a place with few people. Come to our side, you feel like you can't die quickly enough. Think about it this way. More than a dozen corpses that were hung on the big tree fell down one after another, and they gathered around. One after another, pale ghost hands grabbed at Shen Jian from all sides. Judging from the supernatural fluctuations emanating from their bodies, this is the den of a group of ghost kings. Uncle, come and play with us. Yeah, it's fun. Just stretch it, hang it, and spin it. It's like spinning a cow or a horse. Hey, uncle, you are not so cowardly that you don't even dare to hang yourself. The cheerful laughter of children echoed. If you ignore what these children said, it would definitely be an extremely heartwarming scene. Shen Jian paused. He was also affected by the scene. He was not used to suffering in the world. He immediately said enthusiastically, "Okay, I like to beat children the most." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 808. At this time, feeling ashamed under the tree. More than a dozen children who were hanging on the tree but said they were playing games were surrounding Shenjian. The tiny ghost hands looked like they could be broken with just a pinch, but when dozens of pairs of such ghost hands stretched out at the same time, they surrounded Shenjian. Come on, even the abyss-level Ghost King will change his expression. However, Shenjian always maintained an enthusiastic look, as if he was infected by the scene, with a heartfelt smile on his face. GGG, children, and other things, sorghum likes it best, how about we play games? All the ghost children were stunned. No. Are you so wise? You humming stole our lines. If you said our words, it would make us look stupid. Uncle, do you really want to play with us? This game may be a little bit difficult for you. A ghost child pointed at the big locust tree next to him, pulled down a branch, and circled it into a loop. He said sullenly, "Uncle, come and play. This is really fun. We have to play it every day." The words have not yet finished. Shenjian interrupted with a look of disgust on his face. After playing a game dozens or hundreds of times, what else can be fun? If you want to play it, you must play something fresh. No way, no way. Is your spiritual world so poor and you only know how to play one kind of game? Don't you feel shabby? Shenjian increased his tone. He looks like it's boring to play this kind of game with you. A group of children. They collectively couldn't stand it any longer. Everyone was so angry that their teeth itched. No. You just keep talking, what are you doing with all this weirdness? It makes us want to kill you so much now. But after hearing the new game mentioned by Shenjian, they became a little excited to try it. Really? They have long been tired of playing the game of spinning cows and horses every day. Although the purpose of their existence here is to be used as an exhibit by Count Ano to be hung on a tree and rotated around, if there is any new game, they can also introduce themselves and let Count Ano change their tricks. Think of this. A teenage boy with dark pupils, wearing only a pair of shorts and with his ribs and sunken chest exposed, walked up and said with a sinister smile, "Okay, uncle, but there are winners and losers in games. If you are uncle, if you lose, you will be punished." Shenjian smiled brightly, "I think so too. Come on, line up one by one. This first game is called Whack-a-Mole. You play as a mole. Before the hunter catches you, dig a hole in the ground and escape from here," said. Shenjian had already taken out a black steel rod from his body, and the expression on his face gradually became weird. Since no one objects, let's let the game begin. Let's see if the kid can dig out the hole quickly and steadily. Got in. Ghosts. Their expressions froze. God plays whack-a-mole and digs holes in the ground. There is no way to let gophers dig holes on the spot. Isn't this just eating shit and not keeping up with the heat? And we don't know whether you are happy with this game, but we are definitely not happy. This is already troublesome and useless. Just when they were about to retort, Shenjian was already filled with deep malice and grinned, "Hey, don't worry, Shushu is playing games with the children. There are no negative reviews. 5-star certification, quality assurance." The next moment, Shenjian smashed it down with a stick. The roaring hurricane was wrapped up with huge force, like tearing apart the sound barrier, and crashed on the head of a ghost child. Grass. That's how you play it, right? How much force did you use to make the sound barrier in Whack-A-Mole? Not to mention gophers, the holes in the ground have to be sunken somewhat. Play with your ant. Boom. Under the horrifying gazes of the ghosts, a black steel rod smashed a ghost child flat. During this period, no ghost blood was spilled. Apparently, under such an attack that hit the sound barrier, the body's blood was destroyed first, until the body collapsed, and the cardiovascular and other blood supply organs could not even respond. It went directly into a state of panic. This scene. It frightened the other ghost children nearby. They all looked at Shen Jian with horrified eyes. This intruder is so powerful. A ghost king was killed with one stick. And it can be seen from the other party's expression that he doesn't even have any strenuous or exhausted posture. In other words, the opponent can carry out such an attack many more times. Then, the next second, the remaining dozen or so ghost children began to run away crazily in all directions, their faces turning pale. They were afraid that if they ran any slower, this perverted uncle would hit their Tianling caps with a stick and crack open their skulls. See this. Shen Jian didn't panic. There was still time to laugh strangely. So you are going to play catch and hide in this second game? I am a master of catch and hide. I have won the catch and hide competition twice and lost to me. People are convinced in the end, and as my defeated generals, they will never appear in front of me in their lives. Group of ghosts. You are too grandma. I'm afraid your so-called catch and seek game isn't very serious. Before, they would have thought that Shen Jian was really a master, making these people feel ashamed in front of him, and they could only choose not to appear in front of Shen Jian again. But now, they suspected that the phrase "never meet again in life" may refer to the fact that this cub killed all the participants in the hide-and-seek competition. At this moment, their minds have not yet recovered from the fear. Then I heard Shen Jian change the subject. Hide and seek is too simple. Today we are going to play a more complicated one. This second game is called Who is the Light. As you can tell from the name, it is much more creative than the first one. Let's see who can become the light. Shen Jian raised his hand. A bright and dazzling beam of light shot out without any structure, accompanied by a roar. A dazzling bright light instantly swallowed up a little girl. All that girl became light in the eyes of all the children. For the little girl involved, it was no less than a huge disaster. The blazing heat penetrated her body, causing her to lose her supernatural reactions. Under the gaze of the ghosts, he fell to the ground with a thud. Moment. The situation on the field became even more chaotic. Shen Jian also became more excited. The expression on his face was undisguised. That little fat guy over there, don't you want to become the light? The children chosen by the light are the heroes who save the world. What? No. Haha, being chosen by the light but not daring to accept it, it shows that you have fallen into darkness. Then let the light give you salvation. Ugly little girl here, you were also chosen by the light. What? You accepted it without even hesitating? Where is your modesty? A child chosen by the light does not need an arrogant maniac. Shen Jian was very happy. Smilingly, he controlled the beam to penetrate the chests of these ghost children. Soon. I feel ashamed in front of the tree. Only the ghost child who looked about 10 years old with dark eyes and shorts was left at the beginning. He seemed to be the king of the children. Not only is the terror level infinitely close to that of the abyss level ghost king, but it is also quite prestigious. At this time, the ghost child fell down on the ground, and his face that was originally pale has now turned deathly white. Looking at the adult who kept telling nonsense and told him everything, the ghost child could only it felt like the blood all over my body was stagnant. Don't dare to move. Don't dare to move at all. You don't want to play? Do you look down on me or the light? Shen Jian was condescending and cursed. Ghost child. He whimpered and shook his head desperately, but still dared not open his mouth to say a word. Because in these two sentences, riding on the horse is a proposition. Once you answer, you are already wrong. After all, this bitch is for the people here. It doesn't matter which one you choose. This was something he only realized after watching all his playmates fall down one by one. Certainly. It's okay not to answer. If you don't answer, you will still look down on the other person, and you will still be punished. Then. The ghost child was about to cry but said without tears, "Sir, if you want anything, just say it. I have been here all my life and I still understand everything here." Hear this. Shen Jian nodded with satisfaction. Yes, your bond with light is very high. I just want to find Erlano. You should know where the master here is, right? No. The ghost child cried louder. Damn it. Just for this little thing, what? Even if you are afraid that we will lie, just kill one or two to refresh your mind. Why kill them all? As if he understood the grievance in the ghost child's eyes, Shen Jian patted him on the shoulder sincerely. You only saw me killing them, but you didn't see that I resolved their grievances. Ghost kid. You are really full of crooked theories. What is the difference between this and although I kill you, I also help you escape? Do not shake Billion. If this could resolve the grievances, there wouldn't be so many evil ghosts in the world. Certainly. He was vomiting like this in his heart, but on the surface he still looked like he was suddenly enlightened. Shen Jian did not continue to explore the other party's psychology, and stood up and said, "Lead the way. Maybe when I negotiate a deal with Erlano, you, the hero, can also get a lot of rewards." The corner of the ghost child's mouth twitched slightly. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry for a moment. Although he didn't know what Shen Jian was doing here, judging from Shen Jian's behavior, it was not just for a peaceful solution. No matter whether the Earl suppressed the enemy or the enemy really reached some consensus with the Earl, the ending of the wallflower is not much better. But Shen Jian's words still gave him some low expectations. Immediately, he asked cautiously, "My lord, I don't know why you came to see the Earl. Perhaps, I can help you provide some necessary information." Hear this. Shen Jian glanced at the other party in slight surprise. He said casually, "I'm here to discuss a business with the Earl. I need all the craftsmen in the Earl's territory to come with me. It will be of great use. It's best to be the one who can pack up all the forging techniques and take them away." The ghost child was startled. This is big business. Not to mention anything else, there are more than 10 ghost craftsmen in the Earl's mansion alone, and there are hundreds of less skilled ghost craftsmen in the fiefdom. After full recruitment for a period of time, coupled with the forging process, even if it is only for a month, the horror coins required will be as high as tens of millions. Is this going to be a big project? Need to use such a big deal? Sir, are you here to discuss business, or a big deal worth tens of millions of horror coins? You can enter the Earl's mansion in a formal way. Even if you are not a noble, under the temptation of tens of millions of horror coins, Lord Earl, I won't reject you either. The more he talks, the ghost children also become more and more depressed. You have such a big hand, it would be great to enter the Earl's mansion openly. Okay, I have to break through. It still costs money to hire someone. Shen Jian opened his mouth and said. The ghost kid made a move. Open your mouth wide. Damn it. No wonder you want to break in. I bet you are trying to make a fool of yourself. I underestimated your shamelessness. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigua. Chapter 809. At this time, the ghost child was panicked. Because the man following him is a lunatic. The other party actually wanted to take away all the craftsmen and forging craftsmanship in the Earl territory, and he didn't want to pay him back. No wonder he had to sneak in. If he entered through the front door, he would probably be beaten out directly. "Sir, your behavior." The ghost boy hesitated to speak. He actually wanted to say something very immoral, but seeing the dangerous look in Shen Jian's glance, he changed his words sincerely. "Your Majesty, don't you, I must be willing. It's not that you don't want to, if you dare to say it, the Earl will definitely reward you with a crash package." He complained silently. Shen Jian's expression remained unchanged. "I'm not prostituted for free, I just don't have enough chips if I don't want to." "Ghost kid?" He was slightly startled. 100,000 whys flashed through my little mind. "Ah! You don't even plan to give me any money. Isn't this free prostitution? Can you still clean up your act?" With this doubt, the ghost child quickly brought Shenji to a 3-story mechanical building block. "Sir, this is the residence of the Earl. This place is a forbidden area. No one can approach unless the Earl comes out in person." Shenji raised his eyebrows. "What can you say? It is said that the Earl and the Madam were married by family. They had no feelings and they both played their own roles. But one day, the Madam disappeared. Since then, there has been an additional building like this in the Earl's mansion. At the beginning, servants often came to check out of curiosity, but as soon as they got close to this building, they would also disappear. Over time, this place became a forbidden place, and unless the Earl came out in person, no one would come here to disturb." When he said this, there was obvious shrinkage in the ghost child's eyes. Apparently, this story is true. Otherwise, a ghost king would not be able to show such emotional fluctuations. "What did you see?" Shen Jian asked. Gilo the ghost child swallowed his saliva and said, "Sir, one day I secretly ran here to play and found that something was wrong with the Count's face. Faintly, I seemed to see that the other half of the Count's face reflected the Countess's face. It looks like, I suspect, the Count ate the lady, but for some reason, he didn't eat her thoroughly enough, and that's why she looked like this. And not only the Countess, but I also seem to see several barons and viscounts who have been guests in the Earl's mansion on the face of the Earl. And the terrifying level of Lord Earl also surpassed the top Ghost King in an instant, and almost reached the level of ghosts and gods." After listening, Shen Jian was thoughtful. It seems that this should be a supernatural method similar to devouring. This method is not too uncommon. In the copy of Entertainment City, the protagonist Lin Yan arranged by the world-destroying ghost and god has such a golden finger, which can swallow the yin-chi of other ghosts and use his supernatural powers for him. The Earl of Ano used a similar method, but it seemed incomplete. While devouring the ghost, it also allowed part of the opponent's resentment to attach to him. This presents a situation like multiple people competing for one body. Thinking. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Waves of roars echoed in front of the building. The sound was messy and hoarse, like a ghost howling. Just listening to it makes my hair stand on end, and I feel like I have entered a ghost cave. The ghost child became even more nervous. A small face turned pale. The fleeting supernatural fluctuation just now was clearly at the level of ghosts and gods. Although he is young, he does not understand everything. At first glance, the Earl is in the critical stage of promotion to the ghosts and gods. In addition, even the barons and viscounts who are guests are also devoured by the Earl. Once there is not enough food, the entire Earl's palace will probably become a slaughterhouse. Especially for a ghost like him who is above the Ghost King level, it is a delicious dish. Think of this. He subconsciously turned around and ran away. I'm so unlucky today. First, he encountered Shenjian, a bastard, and then he happened to encounter the moment when Lord Count's supernatural fluctuations reached the level of ghosts and gods. You know, this kind of situation is rare. It may happen once in 10 times. He never thought that he would meet them all. However, the next second, a blood-stained hemp rope was wrapped around his neck at some point. At the moment of doubt, the ghost child suddenly found that he was being hung up and dragged away like a kite, while another section of the blood-stained hemp rope was stretched around Shen Jian's wrist. He saw that the light in Shen Jian's eyes became more and more obvious, and he pushed open the door without any scruples and ran towards the source of the sound. The eager energy seemed to be afraid that if one was slow, the other would run away. Ghost child. Tired, destroy it. I have no love for this world. In life without love. The ghost child finally saw the source of the sound, which was the Earl of the Earl's mansion. In other words, the Earl and his little wives. The other side. Shen Jian glanced away. I couldn't help but be speechless. I saw only the study room. A gentlemanly and elegant man wearing medieval aristocratic clothing was kneeling on the ground, covering his face and howling in pain. Sensing someone approaching, Count Ano raised his head. He revealed a face that was very in line with the British temperament. However, at this time, this face was completely distorted, half of it was the original appearance, and half of it was that of a woman. The woman looked like a resentful woman, howling with half her mouth. The madness in his eyes was clearly revealed. Immediately afterwards, the next second, the woman's face disappeared, replaced by another British-style man's face. They are also howling like ghosts and wolves. It seems that he is venting his pain. In just a few minutes, the other half of Count Ano's face changed into more than a dozen different appearances. The ghost child hanging in the air becomes more and more terrifying as he looks at it. His face was almost turning green. The countess, the barons, viscounts, and other nobles in the territory, and he even saw the earls from other fiefdoms on the face of the earl. Damn it! If this was discovered, it would definitely become a public target. He originally thought that the earl's mansion was the safest place, but now it seems that this place is a time bomb that will be detonated at any time. Not only will the earl himself be injured, but they will also be affected. He was going to remind Shen Jian to retreat quickly. Unexpectedly, Shen Jian had already walked over. He said kindly like a doctor, Count Ano, right? I think you seem to be a little uncomfortable now. How about we talk about our affairs after I cure you? Count Ano? Ghost child? Damn it! Is the one you are riding on a horse a tiger? Is now the time to heal? Can't you see that something is wrong with him, that he is on the verge of losing control of his supernatural powers? One bad thing is that what we will face is a crazy ghost who has completely lost his mind and only knows how to vent. In the crazy stage, this is still a ghost. In the entire Earl territory, who dares to say that he can suppress a rampaging ghost and god? Are you brave as a skilled person, or are you simply fearless as an ignorant person? At the same time, Count Ano didn't bother to think about anything else, and immediately said, "What can you do? Let the ghost resentment in my body be relieved, and I will not care about your sins of breaking in here." The method is very simple. Shen Jian smiled sincerely, took out a serrated sword, and threatened, "Listen to the ghosts inside, if you don't break away from this body, I will chop off one of your hands." Count Ano was stunned. No. Why don't you put this threat aside? These resentful people are not stupid, there is definitely no way they can get out. If you don't go out, what can you cut? Soon. Count Ano understood the meaning of this sentence. It took less than 3 seconds for Shen Jian to finish shouting. He saw with his own eyes that the man lifted up the serrated sword, raised the knife and cut off his right arm. Count Ano was dumbfounded. He watched blankly as his right arm detached from his body, was dismembered, and fell to the ground. After being stunned for several seconds, he finally reacted and let out a wolf howl. Ah! Ah! 2 different cries came from one mouth at the same time. The former comes from Count Ano. The latter comes from the dozens of ghostly and resentful gases in his body. At the moment when Count Ano's arm was cut off, more than a dozen ghosts felt the heartbreaking pain at the same time. In just a few seconds, the other half of his face changed dozens of times. Earl Ano glared at Shen Jian with an angry expression. "You bitch. It turns out that when you threatened the kidnappers, you also assigned the hostages to the kidnappers' camp. You didn't make it clear earlier. I thought you really had a solution, but I didn't expect this. That's enough, get out of here, I don't need your treatment." Count Ano screamed. A ghostly face changes constantly, and the level of terror on his body is that of a top ghost king for one moment, and then jumps to the level of a ghost or a god. The cold wind blew, causing the surrounding temperature to drop a lot. Shen Jian did not believe in evil, so he patted Count Ano's shoulder in a comforting manner and said sincerely, "Don't worry, I am a professional. Even if I risk your life today, I will drive these things out of your body." Count Ano. "God is willing to risk my life. Your lines are just fake." He struggled desperately. Because he felt that this man was even crazier than him, and if he didn't counterattack quickly, he would really be killed by the other party. However, Shen Jian had already raised the serrated sword again. He spoke again, "You see, if you don't come out, your legs will be chopped off next time." Count Ano's face turned green. He said in a panic, "Wait, can you please stop cutting off the legs?" Of course Shen Jian thought for a while, adhering to the principle of humanity, and said again, "If he doesn't come out, I'll blow his head off." After listening, Count Ano was stunned. "You are nothing. Either the hands and feet are cut off or the head is shot." "Wait, let's talk about cutting off the legs." "Okay, I'll chop off the legs as you say." Shen Jian didn't refute, and pointed the serrated sword in the direction of his thighs with a smile. At this time, a sharp female voice sounded from the other half of the face, "Cut it, chop it down, see if we are cowardly. If we die, he will have to die with us." While talking, the expression on the woman's face became increasingly vicious. Just as she was about to disappear, she suddenly saw that Shen Jian's serrated sword was really slashing down without any pause, and his expression was even more weird. That moment, there were more than a dozen traces of resentment parasitic on Count Ano's face, and a thought arose in his heart at the same time, "Mad, this madman didn't seem to be sent by Count Ano to act. He really wanted to kill him." Think of this possibility. The expressions of the luck bodies of more than a dozen fierce ghosts were also stagnant. Although they resent Earl Ano, they have already coexisted with each other. Once Earl Ano dies, they will die together. The only way now is to break away from the host. This way we won't die together and we won't have to suffer anymore. Immediately, the moment the sawtooth sword fell, more than a dozen ghostly and resentful gases rushed out of Count Ano's body. Subsequently, a scream echoed. "Ah! Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace." Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 810. Ah! Screams were heard everywhere. Count Ano could only watch as his right leg fell down, ghost blood splattered, and a sharp pain hit him. Damn it! This living bastard, he really deserves to die. This is like when a murderer took a hostage and used the hostage as a shield. Instead of stopping, the man shot the hostage in the shoulder, using the powerful impact of the bullet to knock down the two of them at once. The murderer has been solved. But the hostages were also riding fast. Are you saving people? You're trying to slow me down. What kind of evil did I do in my previous life to meet you, the living king of hell, in this life? So inhuman. Aside. The dozen or so ghosts and resentful gases that escaped from Count Ano looked at all this with bewildered expressions. They were floating in mid-air, with only a mist-like ghost face left. The Count's face changed. They were all poor ghosts who were devoured by Count Ano, and became the nutrients for the other party to advance to the level of ghosts and gods. However, this devouring supernatural power did not produce a complete supernatural effect. This allowed them to retain the last trace of their sanity, allowing them to resurrect in each other's bodies and influence their moods. And now, retribution seems to be coming. Madam, do you know him? He was really deadly. If we hadn't escaped at that time, we would have had to experience the pain of a broken leg. A ghost body couldn't help but gasp. How could such a fierce man dare to deal such a deadly blow to an earl in the earl's fiefdom? A woman's grimace floated out, with a look of astonishment on her resentful woman's face. She is the countess that the ghost children call her. Just now, she was still saying harsh words, but she didn't expect that the man would take action in the next second, making her almost unable to react. It's strange, yet a little familiar, like I've seen it before somewhere. The countess's ghostly face fluttered, and her hateful eyes stared at Shen Jian, especially those long golden hair and golden eyes that lingered for a long time, and then a memory welled up in her memory. He is, His Highness the Fourth Prince. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was shocked. The ghost child was startled. Count Ano's miserable howl also suddenly stopped. The Fourth Prince. This guy, whose behavior pattern is close to that of a lunatic, is the uneducated, dissolute, and hopeless good-for-nothing prince who has become famous in the royal city? How can this be? Although they could not contact or understand the princes due to their status, the fourth prince was too famous. Although it is not a positive image. In the four major territories, the people may not know how diligent the eldest prince is, how much prestige the second prince has, or how iron-blooded the third princess is, but they all know more or less that there is a loser among the royal children. If he wasn't born better than them, his abilities would be worse than them. And now, the countess told them that this man was the fourth prince. This is ridiculous. Who doesn't know that the fourth prince is ignorant and has no skills, and his own terrifying level is only at the level of a ghost king, not even comparable to the children of ordinary nobles. But now, this prince, whom others call a good-for-nothing, is dismembering an earl who is infinitely close to the level of ghosts and gods. Even though Count Ano could not display his full supernatural power at that time, it was still not something that a small ghost king could dismember. An emotion called shock quietly crept into their hearts. The fourth prince is not as simple as he seems. At least on a horror level, a lot is hidden. The other side. Earl Ano also woke up from the severe pain because of these words. Without the influence of the ghost body, his thoughts gradually returned. When he looked at Shen Jian again, his eyes unconsciously fell on the royal family's iconic long golden hair and golden pupils. Taking another look, he saw that this was the fourth prince. About a month ago, he personally received a letter from the fourth prince, saying that he was willing to sell his territory in the small border town and come to him to enjoy the good life. Can't go wrong. This horse-riding horse is really the fourth prince. Think of this. He couldn't stand it any longer. Because this means that he can't take revenge. If a prince beats an earl, he will indeed be punished, but at most he will be beaten a few more times. If he dares to beat a prince, he will be punished at the least, or he will be deprived of his title. He couldn't afford this price. In other words, he was beaten in vain. Thinking. Shen Jian also said with satisfaction at the right time, Count Ano, look, I just said I have a way. It can be cured with one hand and one leg. You have taken a big advantage. Count Ano. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. The fist of his left arm clenched subconsciously. It's hard, the fist is really hard. I would rather not take advantage of this kind of advantage. If you hadn't made your own decision, I would have been able to suppress these ghosts and resentments after a while. But now, I broke an arm and a leg. Even quacks can't describe you. You are a bastard. Certainly. On the surface, Count Ano still managed to maintain a smile, and said with a forced smile, Your Highness, thank you, but when did you come, Your Highness? It seems that my people did not receive the news, otherwise there would be a banquet tonight. Shen Jian waved his hands modestly and said, It doesn't matter, I don't care too much, but remember what I said at the beginning. Since you are fine, Count Ano, let's talk about business. Count Ano. He looked at the gap where his ghost blood was constantly flowing, then at the part of his body that fell to the ground, and then glanced at the ghost body floating in the air with a face full of resentment, and he couldn't fix it? God is okay. Do you think I'm fine now? Do you think the current environment looks like a business environment? Do you understand? It depends on the occasion. If you are not a prince, I will summon the 18 generations of your ancestors and beat them. Your Highness, please speak. Earl Ano said reluctantly. Shen Jian didn't care about anything else and said straightforwardly, I need all the ghost craftsmen and forging techniques in the Earl territory, and I need to move them back to the border town. Count Ano was stunned. Ghost craftsmen? What does the fourth prince need these for? He also killed all the craftsmen at once. Are you planning to build a palace? I wonder how long the fourth prince will borrow it. A month or two, Shen Jian said casually. Be silent for a while. Earl Ano hesitated and said, lending all the ghost craftsmen will seriously affect the economy of the Earl territory, but since it is what His Highness is asking for, it is not a bad idea to borrow them for a month or two, but, the cost of lending is not low. Just tell me how much it is. Shen Jian looked impatient. 20 million thriller coins. No. Count Ano. It seemed that Shen Jian didn't expect Shen Jian to answer so quickly. He still didn't react, but then he understood and couldn't help complaining, Gan, you don't have the money to talk to me so hard, you think you don't short of money. But immediately afterwards, he thought of a way. Your Highness, if you don't have so many thriller coins, you can choose to mortgage your valuables. Hear the words. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. In that case, I will mortgage the border town. Earl Ano looked at Shen Jian with an inexplicable look. As if to say, are you sure? If you use an ordinary 3-star supernatural place to mortgage 20 million thriller coins, you are too damned and too trusting. A 3-star supernatural place with only the Ghost King as its commander, even if it is considered the best among 3-star supernatural places, but if it is sold out, it will only cost less than 2 million. You mortgage 2 million for 20 million? You probably learned this exchange rate from the robbers. Not enough. Your Highness, this is not a question of whether it is enough, but, there is no comparison at all. Count Ano was about to cry. If it's not enough, add more. I'm not an unreasonable person, Shen Jian said with a smile. In this way, I will sign a gambling agreement with you. You will lend me the ghost craftsman for 2 months. After 2 months, I'll pay it all back, and then return the earldom to you, so you won't lose anything. Count Ano? Is this a gambling agreement? Why do I only see you getting benefits throughout the article? What about my benefits? Oh. The advantage is that the earldom will be returned to me. Damn it, isn't the earldom originally mine? Will you give it back to me? You leave it here and leave it here. I lost 2 months of work in co-writing, and in the end I just restored everything to the original. It's best not to tell others about your business model, because I'm afraid they will beat you up directly. What do you think? You exchanged 20 million for an earldom. Speaking of which, you got a big advantage. Shen Jian said with a smile. According to his past style, he should have beaten the opponent to death and put him in a sack. But this mission is different. His side mission is to gain support from other nobles. However, it is too time-consuming to obtain support through normal channels, and direct persuasion cannot be recognized by thriller games. In this case, then find a suitable point between the two. Got a bug? As long as Earl Ano signs this agreement, it means that he will move all the most valuable things in the Earl's territory back to the border town. Isn't this the Earl's greatest support? What greater support could there be than sending your core technical staff out? I do. Count Ano was furious. My whole body was shaking. Because the subtext in Shen Jian's words was too obvious. If he doesn't cooperate, he will no longer be the master of the earldom, and this will require his death. Only if he dies can the earldom change hands. This is a naked threat. But, looking at his broken hand and leg, he humiliated himself. This fourth prince of Dogecoin is so damned. The words fell. In front of Shenjian, a scarlet panel appeared. Side mission, obtain the support of any noble, completed. It has been detected that the player has adopted improper methods, and the bug has been fixed. Note, players cannot continue to gain the support of nobles in this way. Warning, the player is the ultimate heir to the thriller game. Please pay attention to your words and deeds, and please use proper methods to clear this copy. Shenji uncurled his lips. Joke. Proper way. He has never suffered this kind of injustice since he started playing thriller games. What a challenge traveling by water. Taking the dry road is called facing difficulties. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 811. Side mission, obtain the support of any noble, completed. It has been detected that the player is the ultimate heir to the thriller game and the exclusive difficulty has been turned on. Now activate the next phase of branch tasks. Branch Task 3, Become Famous. Content, as the fourth prince of the Eli Empire and one of the royal heirs, the player needs to gain a lot of reputation and become famous in the 4 realms of the kingdom. Task requirements, obtain the support of any 3 nobles above the count. Note, this task is a player-only branch. Glancing at the scarlet panel, Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. Some were astonished. This thriller game is really a good idea. If it were another player, not to mention the more outrageous mission requirements that may be opened in the future, simply gaining the support of 3 earls or more nobles would be enough for the player to stay in this dungeon for several years. And, under normal circumstances, there are not many nobles above earl in the 4 major territories of the kingdom. If there are more than 5 in a territory, you can already imagine how undercurrents are surging in the relationship between the territories. If you want to get the support of 3 earls at once, unless you are a prince, it is really impossible for ordinary people to do it. No matter how difficult a branch task 3 was, he could almost imagine that branch task 4 would definitely be to unify the southern border. The next step is to unify the 4 realms. Shen Jian pondered for a moment. It was easy to figure out the logic of this side mission. His identity in the dungeon is that of a prince, so the side quest naturally revolves around a king trial. For example, the 5-star white player with the ID of Adolf is the son of the steward of the Viscount Mansion. The side mission will most likely revolve around the Viscount Mansion. First, he will stand out in the Viscount Mansion, then become a steward, and then become a Viscount. The personal manager has a place. If there is another chance, maybe the Viscount can get close to a certain prince, and then continue to become a popular person around a certain prince. This is almost the pinnacle of players. This. Not even his starting point. Thinking about it this way, the title of the ultimate heir to the thriller game is really effective. Shen Jian calmed down. His eyes fell on the room again. At that time, Count Anald has withered. With a look of humiliation, He picked up the severed hands and legs that fell on the ground. Keep your head down. His eyes were full of resentment and anger. He is a dignified fiefdom earl, with a terrifying level as high as the top ghost king. He is already infinitely close to the level of ghosts and gods. In the Eli Empire, he has reached the threshold of becoming a marquis. The reason why his title remains unchanged is because he has no merit. However, just today, he was being pushed to the ground and rubbed by others in his own home. Even with his arms and legs broken, he could only swallow the humiliation back in his stomach. For him, this was simply unbearable pain. He wants revenge. Even if this person is a prince, he will take revenge. But not now. Just thinking about it? As if sensing Shen Jian's gaze, Count Ano calmed down the expression on his face and showed a forced smile again, looking like the host and guest were enjoying themselves. It's just the resentment deep in his eyes, no matter how much he conceals it, it will still show out. The other side. Shen Jian watched all this with interest. He couldn't see the changes in Count Ano's expression management, but he had a favorability panel. The dazzling -100 favorability made it difficult for him not to notice. Only Shen Jian ignored it. It is not so fast to remove the mill and kill the donkey. And keeping Earl Ano would be even more useful. After all, according to the information from Ghost Clerk Kali Tyre, Count Ano is loyal to the largest noble force in the south, the Duke of Elk, and the south will belong to him sooner or later. The sooner they confront him, the sooner he can unify the south. With this thought, Shen Jian quickly set his sights on the group of ghosts and resentful bodies. Think about it. He took out a black steel rod. Incorporate these grievances into it. Earl Ano was shocked when he saw this. Do these people know his secret? If they talk about it, he will be in big trouble. However, Shen Jian didn't give him a chance to refute at all, clapped his hands and walked out with satisfaction. It seemed like it was a trivial thing, and there was a sense of great honor and disgrace in doing good deeds without leaving a name. The ghost child who was hung in mid-air, floating around like a kite, looked astonished. He opened his mouth, not knowing what to say. This man turned out to be one of the princes of the kingdom, which really refreshed his outlook. Are today's princes so down to earth that they don't even have any idle baggage? Forced into homes, killed for fun, coerced and lured, bought and sold by force, and bullied children. It's so bad. Grass. The masters of court etiquette all work hard. How can this guy have any moral qualities at all? He is fake. Not long after, Shen Jian, with the help of Earl Ano, has killed all the craftsmen in the Earl's territory and packed them all back to the border town. At the same time, the chat interface is also changing. Since Adolf and half of the players began to put pressure, more and more players have chosen to disclose their GameIds and identity information. Even if you have other ideas, facing the alliance of all players, you can only choose to advance and retreat together. Among the 50 players, 43 have revealed their identities and been confirmed to be Western world players. Of the 7 remaining players, 5 died. There are still 3 people whose details are unclear. Among them, Shen Jian was included. Adolf et al. Members, and 3 players have not chosen to reveal their identities, nor have they sent messages in the chat interface. I have reason to suspect that these 3 people are the mysterious existence that the thriller game said is destroying the balance of the game among. Sam, hey, man, hiding one's head and showing one's tail is not what a hero does. Even if you are Chinese players, you are still considered in the Western camp. There is no need to worry about what we will do to you. We just want to find our common opponent, don't you think? Can we defeat an opponent who needs a thriller game to help us cheat? William, the dungeon here is divided into the 4 realms of Southeast, Northwest, and the High Seas. There are 5 landing locations. 10 players will be teleported to each location, excluding the 7 who died. The coordinates of the 3 of you are either the south or the north. Even if you are now, even if you don't tell us, We can find it. See this. Both the players who were hiding their identities and those who had revealed their backgrounds were all smiling bitterly. Just because the people talking above are all 5-star players. In addition to Adolf and Sam who were first exposed, this person with the ID William is also a 5-star player, and he is also the player who took the initiative to say that his swordsmanship level has reached level 3. The combination of 3 5-star players and 44-star players is a force that cannot be ignored. Even if the players with the highest game level in the country come, they have to be obedient under such a lineup. At this time, a hidden player couldn't bear the pressure and chose to be exposed. Fang Xiu, I am a Chinese player, located in the fiefdom of the Southern Duke, level 44, and I will join you. See this. In this dungeon, white and black players from all over the world showed a hint of sneer. There are indeed Chinese players here. No wonder I have to admit it. In the circle of Western Ghost Masters, the status of Chinese players is not generally low. Coupled with the particularity of the Holy See organization, Chinese players will not be allowed to grow and spread more secrets about horror games back to the Dragon Kingdom. Because of this, most Chinese people who can survive in Western thriller games are cautious in nature, especially those who can reach 4-star players or above. They are absolutely rare. But now, the other party has been exposed. Whether they live or die, it all depends on their mood. Adolf at Fangshiu, don't worry, we are all Western Ghost Masters, we will definitely treat them equally since you are in the dukedom, then you can tell me a location, and I will ask other players from the southern border to join you. The task is to find the last missing player in the southern border. We will also send players to search for the northern border. Fangshiu, I understand, I will definitely comply. Adolf at all members, the remaining 2, it doesn't matter if you don't admit it, but as long as you give us some time, you will still be exposed by then. No matter who you are, you will be hunted by all of us. Inside the Viscount's mansion, Adolf breathed a sigh of relief. Only 2 players are left as suspects, making the search much less difficult. That mysterious existence is either located in the south or in the north. As long as they find the opponent, their winning rate will be higher. After all, how can the network built by one person be compared to the joint efforts of more than 40 of their players? Not to mention anything else, just announcing the other party is enough to make him a target of public criticism. Everything is going in the right direction. At this time, on the chat interface, a new piece of news emerged. The game ID is King of Yama. King of Yama, clown, wait for me to find you. Just one sentence. But it stirred up waves in the hearts of all players. Showed up. The unknown mysterious existence finally admitted his identity. Adolf's pupils widened. I just felt my scalp explode. King Yama? The game ID of that mysterious existence is actually King of Yama? Isn't this the hypothetical object he mentioned a few days ago? At first, he just thought along this line of thinking to make other players feel a sense of urgency, but deep down in his heart, he actually didn't think that a mere Dragon Kingdom person could become the city lord of 3 game areas in the horror world. But now, everything seems to confirm that the man from the Dragon Kingdom seems to have really become the city lord of the horror world, and only then has he gained a superior status. Now, he has appeared in the deep ghost realm where only Western players can appear. Damn it! How did he do it? Not only Adolf couldn't figure it out, but the other players were also horrified. All the saliva was swallowed at this moment. The big boss appears. Shen Jian stared at the chat interface. His face was gloomy. If someone seeks death, he will naturally fulfill his wish. This. We have to start from the south. End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 812. At that time, the chat interface caused an uproar. Countless players stared at the dazzling game ID and the notice that could be called a ghost, impermanent and life-threatening. Their hearts were shocked and their hearts beat violently. Adrenaline seemed to be soaring. It is conceivable how much psychological pressure this mysterious existence has brought to players. It is true that none of the players present have seen his terror, his strength, and even his appearance, but just from the rule of breaking the balance of the game and compensating the players in the thrilling game, all players can feel like they are here. Enemy. What kind of enemies can make this kind of change in a thriller game? Nobody knows. It's impossible for anyone to know. Because this itself is an impossible thing. It wasn't until this King of Yama appeared that the horror game changed. In this case, how can we not frighten all the players? Now, this mysterious existence was finally exposed. The ID is King of Yama, the level is 64, and he is also a 5-star player. In a copy, 4 5-star players entered. There is no doubt that this is a high-end game. Oh no, it is the pinnacle of horse racing. A white player with the ID Adolf, level 64. A black player with the ID Sam, level 63. A mixed race player whose ID is William, level 62. A person from the Dragon Kingdom with the ID of King Yama, level 64. In terms of game level, this dragon countryman obviously does not take advantage. The game level reflects the horror level of the Ghost Master to a certain extent. 4-star players are between level 40 and 50, and their terror levels range from red to top red. Between 50 and 60, the weak ones can escape from the Ghost King, while the strong ones can temporarily resist the Ghost King. The standard for a 5-star player is to be able to engage in a supernatural confrontation with the Ghost King. Normally, the gap between 5-star players is actually not that big. 3 5-star players working together can kill anyone head-on. Even the player with the highest game level in the country would not be able to do well in the hands of 3 5-star players. Some Western Ghost Masters who didn't know Shen Jian's background were already smiling happily. In their view, the reason why this King of Yama was deemed by the thriller game to have destroyed the balance of the game was largely due to some unknown error in the thriller game. Otherwise, it was because this person was carrying some special supernatural object. This will be recognized as such. For Western players who know the game King of Yama, their expressions are like being struck by lightning, and they are frozen in place. The rumors are true. This man from the Dragon Kingdom has really become the city lord of the game area in the horror world, and only then will he be judged as superior by the horror game. The question at hand is whether this dragon countryman's position as city lord was obtained through strategy or strength. If it's the former, then they have a huge advantage. This proves that Shen Jian has never exceeded the category of 5-star players. They only need to pile up the number of people and they can kill the opponent. If it's the latter, then the only way is to use the background power of the copy here, and this requires them to manage their own power as quickly as possible, so that they can invite beings above ghosts and gods to kill Shen Jian for them. For a while, there was a great uproar. Everyone knows that a life and death competition among players has begun. At the same time, Shen Jian has returned to the small border town. He didn't pay too much attention to the farce among the players. The so-called death notice was nothing more than picking out these people and eliminating them all while sweeping the 4 major realms of the kingdom. Thinking. Shen Jian has returned to the castle. He had been gone for nearly 2 days, and all traces of the massacre caused 2 days ago had been cleared away. And the ghost scribe Kali Tyre had already greeted him in front of the castle gate. Shen Jian looked around. I don't know if she was notified in advance. Today, Kali Til took off her unchanging unisex men's clothing and put on a red halter neck satin gown. The backless waist design made her feminine. The curves are vividly outlined. The clear and deep blue eyes are like an endless ocean, and the long ice blue hair hangs down to the waist, like surging waves, giving people a unique temperament and charm. See Shen Jian. There was a smile on the lips of this noble lady from the Duke's family. But the next second, her smile faded. Instead there was a hint of hostility. It was not aimed at Shenjian, but at the phantom next to Shenjian. That was a plump and voluptuous mature woman. Wearing a yellow improved palace dress, the traditional wide robe with large sleeves has a waist design, perfectly showing off the slender waist and well-proportioned figure. The highlighted parts of her clothing design are exactly the same as hers. Who is she? Didn't the fourth prince go to the Earl of Ano? Why did you bring back a woman who was obviously an aristocratic mature woman? Your Highness, who is she? The tone of Ghost Scribe Kali Tyre seemed a little stiff. Let me introduce, Count Ano's first wife is now our manager in charge of internal affairs. Shenjian introduced. That's right. This beautiful mature woman is the wife of Count Ano, and she is also one of the dozen ghosts and resentments. After being devoured by Count Ano, there is only a trace of resentment left, parasitic on her husband's face. According to human terms, this is a wandering soul. Worse than a lonely ghost. But for him, who has the reincarnation of the 10th Palace King of Hell and controls the entire underworld, it is not difficult to help the other party recover. In addition, he had killed all the undercover agents in the castle, leaving no one available. Under the Countess's pleading, Shenjian naturally made her the internal affairs manager of the castle. Not only this countess, but also other ghosts and resentments. These fierce ghosts who were devoured by Earl Ano are either nobles, abyss-level ghost kings, or even top ghost kings. Whether they are helping to govern or act as thugs, they are very suitable. Hear this. Ghost clerk Kali Tyre remained calm on the surface, maintaining the basic etiquette of a nobleman, and stretched out his hand. Countess, I have long admired the name, and have always heard that a large part of the reason why Earl Ano's territory has developed so much. That's the credit, and when I saw it today, it was indeed well deserved. The Countess also covered her mouth and smiled, her eyes glanced at Shenjian and Kali Tyre, and then stretched out her hands to hold them together. I have also heard that the second lady of the Kali family, one of the 4 holy families, has arrived. I've been looking for a chance to get to know you here in the southern border, and I finally got to meet you today. 2 slender hands were held together. Looks very friendly. But just by holding it, it was separated by a touch. The ghost secretary looked at Shenjian and said, Your Highness, I have something to report to you. Said. She also glanced at the countess beside her. The meaning is obvious, she is not one of her own on major issues, so go discuss them elsewhere. Shenjian raised his eyebrows and said casually, I'm not an outsider, just tell me. Hear the words. Kali Tyre almost frowned, not an outsider? Your Highness, you just killed a group of undercover agents a few days ago, and you trust others so soon? Or is it that you got interested in sex and exposed your true nature again? Certainly. Think so. Shenjian had already said this, and it was impossible for her to refute it. He could only say, the ghost mayor has successfully found a ghost craftsman in the past 2 days, but after all, the time is too short, and now only 3 flintlock guns have been produced. According to the other party, even if he does not work for 24 hours, if production is stopped, the output will not reach 5 handfuls a day. Shenjian nodded slightly. Not disappointed either. After all, 1 ghost craftsman can produce so much in 1 day, and 100 ghost craftsmen can produce x 100 in 1 day. In less than 10 days, the number of flintlock guns will exceed 3,000. If it is changed to assembly line production, this production capacity can be expanded further. Arming an army of 10,000 people with thermal weapons in 1 month is not a problem at all. There are also more than 30,000 bullets produced by Wishing Ghost Tattoo in the past few days, but... Speaking of this, the ghost secretary hesitated for a moment, pursed his lips and said, the power of the bullet does not seem to be enough to hurt the Ghost King, let alone the top ghost king. The ghost town mayor personally tried it, using a flintlock gun with bullets to shoot. The power is only able to leave traces on the body of the red-clothed ghost, but it cannot achieve the penetrating effect. If it is just to expand the size of the territory, the flintlock gun is indeed good, but if you want to unify the southern territory, or even compete for the Four Realms, the effect is minimal. There was some confusion on her face. Because she had clearly seen Shen Jian injure the ghost mayor with a gun, but when it was their turn to try, the power of the gun had dropped sharply. Hear this. The corners of Shen Jian's lips curled up. This is the normal power of firearms. As for me, it's because of my special yin qi, but I have ways to increase the power of bullets. Just saying. Shen Jian had already returned to the castle, took the bullet, and dipped a drop of blood on it. Is this your plan, Your Highness? The ghost secretary was slightly shocked. If every bullet requires a drop of His Highness's blood, no amount of blood will be enough to shed. What are you thinking about? Just mix a few drops of mine with other blood and soak the bullet in it. This is just for your experiment. By the way, I'll give it to you. Shen Jian handed the bullet to the ghost secretary. He said casually, this bullet stained with my blood can kill the world, it can kill ghosts and gods. As soon as these words came out, Kali Til took the bullet blankly. Can a drop of blood kill ghosts and gods? When did the blood of His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince have such weird supernatural effects? It was obviously an extremely ridiculous sentence, but she believed it. He put the bullet away as if it were a treasure. There was an obvious smile at the corner of his mouth. Subsequently, she seemed to remember something. He frowned again and whispered, Your Highness, you should pay attention to your image. It didn't matter how you looked before, but now, you are the Lord of the Southern Territory who is about to rule the Southern Territory, and you are also the Crown Prince who will dominate the Four Realms in the future. You can't then bring back the previous viciousness. Shen Jian was startled. It took a while to react. Are you talking about the Countess? I didn't say it, you admitted it yourself, she pouted. A Countess is willing to give up everything in the Earl's palace to follow His Highness to a border town, and then agrees to become the head of the house. This does not seem to be voluntary. And such scenes of raping civilian girls have not happened before. It's just that this time the target of the people's daughter became a noble lady. Shen Jian said nothing. He looked at the noble lady in front of him with an incomprehensible look. Are you jealous? What are you jealous of? Who is jealous? How could I be jealous? Your Highness, what nonsense are you talking about? Kali Tyre was like a kitten with explosive fur. His face suddenly turned red, and he waved his hands to deny 3 times in a row. Shen Jian looked confused. Ghost Scribe Kali Til. Current status, excited, panicked, and at a loss. Favorability, 55, familiar. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the King of Hell of the 10th Palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 813. Shen Jian didn't stop him until the ghost secretary Kali Tir rushed out of the door with a red face like a kitten with explosive fur. He just looked at him with a strange expression. He did not expect that his act of bringing the Countess back would cause such a big reaction from the noble lady of the Duke's family. And I don't know when, the favorability level has soared to 55 points, and it is not far away from the ambiguous stage of favorability reaching 60 points. Just thinking about it? The direction of the bedroom's bathroom. As the mist rose, the Countess opened the door. She was wearing a nightgown made of lace, with the neckline open, revealing a large area of smooth and tender chest skin and 2 white jade shoulders. A black lace dress could be faintly seen through the side leaks. The short skirt that only covered the knees also revealed a pair of silky and sexy shapely calves. There is no doubt that this is a stunner. Shen Jian sat on the chair and glanced at it, his eyes full of appreciation. That's why he didn't go after Kali Til. This countess is very wise. Certainly. Perhaps it also has a lot to do with the reputation of the fourth prince. Although his purpose of helping these ghosts and resentments was simply to let these talents help him manage the border town, the image of the fourth prince in the Eli Empire was indeed not good, and could even be said to be infamous. Because of this, after he brought the countess back to the castle and appointed her as housekeeper, the other party seemed to understand something at once. Only then will the current scene appear. To this, Shen Jian did not choose to explain. The countess walked slowly, and the fragrance filled her nostrils wherever she touched. The faint fragrance of peony flowers makes people feel excited. Your Highness, I think this second lady of the Kali family has a soft spot for you. She seems to regard me as some kind of imaginary enemy and is guarding against me. The countess covered her mouth and smiled charmingly. She was grateful to Shen Jian. If it weren't for the man in front of her, she would be a wandering soul transformed by a streak of obsession, parasitic on that ungrateful husband, torturing him and herself day after day. Until one day, his resentment is completely wiped away, and he can no longer die. It was Shen Jian's appearance that gave her a second life and a chance for revenge. If that's the case, what does it matter if you sell yourself to this person? Shen Jian said nothing. The countess said nothing more. She came straight to Shen Jian. Show your best side openly to this man. Subsequently, two slender fingers slowly pulled up the clothes, and the silky nightgown was lifted up little by little, and the snow-white skin was slowly exposed along the perfect curves. Pulling it up to the neck, biting the nightgown with his mouth, the white dead skin formed a strong contrast with the black cloth. Your Highness, I'm here to sleep with you. The countess blushed and spoke in a small voice. Apparently, she also had no similar experience of seducing men. Although she has made certain preparations, she was once a noble countess. Before becoming a countess, she was also a noble lady in the Earl territory. She was married to Count Ano through a family marriage. She could seduce men like this. Skill, how could she possibly do it? Being able to do this was the limit of her imagination. The other side. Shen Jian's eyes flashed. I just feel like the blood is flowing backwards. I wonder if a mature and beautiful woman lifts up her nightgown in front of you, then bites it gently with her mouth, exposing her mature body to you without reservation, who can remain indifferent? Use this to test the willpower of cotters. All right. You made it? Shen Jian stood up. He grabbed it with his palm without hesitation. He would never be so rude to a female ghost who needed a strategy. But not the countess. She had a purpose and posted it herself. In this situation, naturally, this beautiful mature woman will do everything she can to satisfy his whims. Well. A charming voice ignited the flames of war. The other side. The ghost scribe Kali Tair, who had already walked out of the castle, covered his face and rubbed his red face, his face lingering in embarrassment. My heart was pounding like a deer, and my heart was in a state of confusion. Is she jealous? Was she jealous of His Highness just now? How can this be? His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince is a scumbag, well, at least he was for more than half a month. She couldn't even take a serious look at such an unlearned, absurd, and indulgent dude. If it weren't for her position, she would have been even less likely to follow him to such a remote town. But just a few days ago, this situation changed. The fourth prince, who had been in a coma for half a month, regained consciousness. Not only did he change his previous image of a playboy, but he also showed a resolute and decisive character. His methods were so sharp that he didn't look like the same person at all. Such a fourth prince is simply too dazzling to imagine. And her attitude seemed to have changed quietly. Does she like His Highness the Fourth Prince? As soon as this thought came out, Kali Tir shook his head in panic. She felt that she was just attracted to such a fourth prince and had a slight liking for him, but she couldn't say that she liked him. The reason why she said those misleading words was just for the good of the fourth prince, nothing more. After all, His Royal Highness the fourth prince finally became obsessed with pursuing a career. If he returns to his previous viciousness, he is likely to continue to indulge in the land of beauties. This is definitely not a good quality for a prince who is about to rule the southern border. It can even be said that this is a weakness that is easily caught. She just didn't want the fourth prince to be defeated by the beauty in the end. That's it? Kalitir couldn't help but nod. Then I thought about it, she was doing it for the fourth prince's benefit, wouldn't running away make her feel guilty? Immediately, she turned back. It was very quiet inside the castle. Not even a maid or servant. She wanted to find him, but she was afraid that another group of undercover agents would be mixed in, so she didn't dare to make her own decision. Soon, she came to His Highness's bedroom again. Just about to push the door open and enter. A lustful voice that made people blush came to her ears unexpectedly. Her movement to push the door stopped abruptly. Listen again. The dormitory seemed to be under renovation, and the roar of the pile driver kept making her subconsciously take a step back. Her delicate and charming face was suddenly covered by clouds. She is a noble lady of the Holy Family, one of the top people in the Eli Empire. She has been shrouded in the family's halo since she was a child, but that doesn't mean she doesn't understand anything. On the contrary, she is known as the twin star of the Kali family. She knows everything. In particular, aristocratic ladies often need to hold exchange meetings and be active in the social world. With familiarity, she can be regarded as a veteran in the theoretical world. At first glance, this voice sounds like Parking XX Fengline 1. She was stupid. Standing blankly outside the door, lewd sounds kept ringing in his ears. She and the fourth prince were the only ones in this castle. Where did this other woman come from? In an instant, a name comes to mind for ghost scribe Kali Til, Countess. These two people are so shameless. One is a married woman, and the other knows that the other is a married woman, and they hook up with each other. This ridiculous scene is truly the style of His Royal Highness the fourth prince. For a while, Kali Til didn't know what to do. Standing outside the door at a loss. She wanted to leave and not see this couple, but listening to the Countess's lazily and pleasantly humming voice, for some reason, her breathing began to become rapid. Just like that, her footsteps were rooted outside the door. At the same time, southern border Elk Duke's mansion. The Chinese man with the ID Fang Xiu was pushing the dining cart into the Duke's mansion with his body shrunken. He looked honest, wearing a chef's uniform and a high hat. All this confirms his identity, Ghost Chef. This is his profession in the world of horror, an extremely rare side job. With the blessing brought by Ghost Chef, he had a much easier time in the horror game copy than ordinary players. This time too, he arrived in the Duke's mansion in the south as a free citizen. With the professional advantage of a ghost chef, he quickly became popular in a ghost restaurant. With his own help, he was successfully noticed by the butler of the Duke's palace and asked him to help cook ghost meals for the Duke and the nobles. Today, he heard that something big happened at the Duke's palace. It is said that a noble named Count Ano from the southern border reported some information. The Duke took it very seriously and held a banquet, summoning more than half of the dignitaries in the southern border to discuss countermeasures. Soon, along with the food on the trolley, the Chinese man with the ID Fang Xiu stood aside nervously. Because he saw no less than 10 top ghost kings on a long table. All of these ghosts are big nobles in the southern region. The lowest person who can serve on the table is an earl. In the main seat, he saw the largest supernatural master in the southern region, the Duke of Elk, who had ghost-level strength. The Duke had a pair of antlers and vertical pupils. Just one glance at him made him tremble from the bottom of his heart, and he did not dare to look at him twice. To his left and right, there was a middle-aged man twirling his beard. The terror level was also higher than that of ghosts and gods. He also knew these two people. He is the only marquis in the south. Further down, there are the protagonists who facilitated this banquet, a sluggish and half-faced Count Ano, as well as various counts. A long table gathered the largest aristocratic group in the south. The words these people said were enough to change the entire southern territory. Fang Xiu's body tensed up. Swallowing saliva. He wanted to leave, but he was the one responsible for the food for this banquet, so he couldn't leave. And he also wanted to know what kind of information could make Duke Elk treat it so seriously. This is important for his subsequent development. Just thinking about it? Duke Elk spoke. Tell me, it has been nearly 2 years, and the fourth prince has not made any noise in the south. What happened this time? There was a look of resentment in Earl Ano's eyes, and he gritted his teeth and said, "Fourth prince, he rebelled." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 814. At the banquet. The fourth prince is going to rebel. As Count Ano said these words, all the ghosts on the scene were stunned. Ah! What does it mean? The fourth prince is going to rebel? No. Putting aside the fact that the fourth prince is just an idiot, he has nothing to do with fighting, government affairs, making money, and reputation. Even if these are met, where does the so-called rebellion come from? Then, the eyes of the ghosts came over one after another with confusion in their eyes. Apparently, Count Ano also knows this, but he will add fuel to the fire. It's just a false accusation, who wouldn't do it? Furthermore, what the fourth prince did before did indeed violate his interests, and who is he? He is a supporter of the Duke of Elk. Hitting him would be a slap in the face of the Duke of Elk. Infringing on his territory would be infringing on the interests of the Southern Territory. Even if this person is a prince, it won't work. Think of this. Earl Ano added jealously, a few days ago, the fourth prince broke into the Earl's mansion without prior notice, killed my retainers, and while I was talking with other nobles, he killed several barons, viscounts, and others. My wife was also brutally killed by him, and he used force to force me to hand over all the ghost craftsmen in the Earl territory, otherwise he would kill me too. With no choice, I could only use all the ghost craftsmen to redeem my territory, but all those ghost craftsmen have been taken away, and various facilities in the Earl territory have stopped operating, causing heavy losses. As soon as these words came out, on the long table, the ghosts frowned. Their first reaction was ridiculous. The second reaction was gloomy. Because the heavy losses mentioned by Earl Ano also included their property. The nobles of the southern border joined together to keep warm, and each had their own property in the fiefdoms of other nobles. Among them, the territory of Earl Ano invested the most. Once you start losing money, it won't be long before you go bankrupt. Who can bear this? An earl said coldly, where did the fourth prince find the strength to break into the earl's palace? This doubt also puzzled other nobles. How could the fourth prince, who was just a puddle of mud, have the strength to kill all the nobles? Even Count Ano, the top ghost king who was infinitely close to the level of ghosts and gods, could not resist. Earl Ano said resentfully, the fourth prince hid his strength. He was at least a top ghost king. Moreover, he launched an attack violently and managed to infect us with supernatural toxins from the beginning. This is how he can achieve such an effect. These words were also words that came to his mind immediately. After all, He couldn't say that he had killed those barons, viscounts, and his wife, and that Shen Jian had taken advantage of them when they were at their weakest, which led to this. That being the case, then Shen Jian can only be portrayed as a villain who uses despicable means. And his previous sentence was not nonsense. He really felt that Shen Jian at least had the strength of a top ghost king, otherwise he wouldn't be able to dismember one of his arms and one leg at once. Hear this. All the nobles present looked shocked. The fourth prince has the strength of a top ghost king? This is on par with the eldest prince and the others, right? Doesn't it mean that the fourth prince is an unbearable person, and the only terrifying level is the ghost king? This information is quite different. Thinking. The Elk Duke on the first seat said grimly, regardless of whether the fourth prince hid his strength or not, he has indeed harmed the interests of the Southern Territory and violated the principles of the King's Trial. The King's Trial allows princes to cooperate with lords from various places to jointly govern the territory. But it does not mean that these territories belong to the prince himself, they are still the private property of the nobles, and what the fourth prince is doing is undoubtedly encroaching on the interests of the nobles, which has violated the laws and rules of the Southern Territory. The fourth prince is provoking our southern nobles. If we sit back and do nothing, it will only allow him to gain further advantage. Therefore, I decided to issue a recruitment order. As soon as these words came out, there was silence in the banquet hall. A call-up order is an order to recruit soldiers. The number of conscripts naturally comes from nobles like them. Certainly. This is not a big deal. But the problem is that this recruitment order was issued to a prince. Are they going to attack a prince? Your Excellency, the royal family. A nobleman couldn't sit still and asked quickly. Duke Elk waved his hand and said, it was the fourth prince who usurped the interests of the nobles first. Even if he was tried, the royal family would not take any action. Otherwise, in the future trial of kingship, which nobleman would dare to hand over the territory to the royal heir? What's more, we only need to send troops to flatten the border town, and it will not threaten the life and safety of the fourth prince. What reason does the royal family give to punish us? Listening to Duke Elk's words, the nobles present also breathed a sigh of relief, and the atmosphere became relaxed again. Among this group of people, the sinister smile on Count Ano's face never stopped. Destroying the border town is the greatest revenge on the fourth prince. Doesn't he want to use ghost craftsmen to forge things? I want to see for myself, even if the territory is gone, what will the fourth prince use to forge it, and who will he forge it for? After this battle, even if the fourth prince did not lose the qualifications for the king trial, he had already entered the elimination queue in advance. Can't stand up anymore. Soon. The banquet is over. The Chinese man with the ID Fang Xiu returned to his residence. Inside the room, 8 Western Ghost Masters have been waiting here early. They are all players who came to the southern border, and all of them are Western players, white, black, mixed race, and Fang Xiu, a Chinese. Is there something big going on? A mixed race player said impatiently. Fang Xiu glanced at him and nodded. This person was a member of the Holy See organization. He knew Adolf, a 5-star player, and he was known as one among the southern players. Fang Xiu, it's a big deal. The Duke of Southern Territory, together with more than half of the nobles, is preparing to send troops against the fourth prince, with the intention of ruining the fourth prince's qualification for the king trial. As soon as the news came out, all players were immediately alarmed. Adolf, send troops to the fourth prince, isn't this just a wasteful prince? The dignified Duke of Southern Territory still needs to go to war over such a matter? Sam at Adolf, hey, old friend, don't you understand, if a family sends troops, it means using private soldiers against a prince. There is a sense of revenge, but if you can unite other nobles to do it, that's it. Even if the royal family is furious when the entire Southern Territory sends out troops to recruit troops, the influence of the nobles from all over the country must be considered. William, I only care about what benefits we can get from this matter. Conquering a prince in the south has nothing to do with us. Adolf, no, it does matter. This is a good opportunity since it is known that the fourth prince will be defeated. The players in the southern region can completely use this power to join the conscripted team, respond to the order, and stand out in this battle. Go smoothly. Entering the Duke's site, we will deal with this later. The news stopped abruptly. But all players know what follows. It is currently known that King of Yama is located in the southern and northern territories. If they can gain the trust of the southern duke in advance, they will have a big advantage. Coupled with the efforts of other domestic players, if all goes well, they will have the support of at least 4 dukes. By then, no matter where this King of Yama goes, he will be unable to escape. Adolf at Fangshiu, do you know the 4th prince's territory and the specific number of conscripts? Fangshiu, I was present throughout the whole process. As far as I know, the 4th prince's territory is located in a remote town. It is a 3-star supernatural place. Its supernatural master is at the level of a ghost king, and the 4th prince is a top ghost king by his side, and there is also the secretary of the abyss level ghost king. Fangshiu, as for the number of recruits, according to the requirements of Duke Elk, each of the 8 noble forces present must produce 500 ghosts, with no less than 1 top ghost king, no less than 10 abyss-level ghost kings, and 100 ghost kings. There were only a few people above, and the leader was a ghost-level marquis. Saw this message. All the players' eyes twitched. My hair felt numb. 8 noble families, that's 4,000 ghosts. Among them are 8 top ghost kings, 80 abyss-level ghost kings, and 800 ghost kings, plus a ghost god leading the team. What a frightening lineup this is. It's enough to sweep across the southern border. And what does the 4th prince's territory have? A top ghost king, an abyss-level ghost king, a ghost king, and hundreds of powerful ghosts below the ghost king level. This isn't even a fight of magnitude. The real purpose of the so-called recruitment is to raise the banner and become famous in the southern territory, so that everyone in the southern territory will fear their strength. For a long time, the players are relieved. Suppressing the palpitations in my heart. The actual difficulty of this super large supernatural place in the Eli Empire is probably 6 or even 7 stars. Just the southern territory can pull out such a huge lineup, and it is not all out. If you add the Eastern Territory, the Western Territory, the Northern Territory, the High Seas, and the Royal Family, the power it possesses is simply unimaginable. If they can make some achievements in this copy, their future achievements will be limitless. This idea appeared in the minds of the 8 players in the southern border. Killing a group of ghosts who don't even have ghost kings, even if they are only 4-star players, is not timid at all. Even if it is not possible, they still have their accomplices and an army of 4,000 ghosts behind them. Flying dragon riding on the face, how can we lose? If they lose, they will cut off their heads and use them as chamber pots for the 4th prince. Nothing about the chat interface is hidden. Shenji unnaturally saw all this. There was a hint of weirdness in his eyes. Knowing that he was an enemy, these Western players dared to openly send this kind of information in the chat interface. Do you think that even if you lay out your plan, you won't be afraid of him causing trouble? Or is this a fishing trap? These Western players want to see if he will also perform on the battlefield to get into the sight of the Duke of the South. Shen Jian looked a little amused. This is a conspiracy. He hid and could only watch other players perform on the battlefield, and successfully connected with the Duke of the South. When he appears, he is exposed to the eyes of all players. After that, there will be no overt or covert strategies. If he is just a somewhat privileged player, he is indeed in a dilemma. But it's a pity. He is not. He is the 4th prince. And this battle will also be led by him. It's time to give these medieval antiques a bit of a shock from modern technology. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigwa. Chapter 815. Time flies. 3 days have passed since the Duke of Southern Territory issued a recruitment order with the intention of conquering the territory of the fourth prince. In the past 3 days, the situation in the south has been changing. All nobles received first-hand information. Whether it is a baron, a viscount, a count, or the few supernatural masters who own a 4-star supernatural land, they are all paying attention to the situation in the border town. They found that there was no movement at all in the territory where the fourth prince was located. It was as if no news had been received. Everything seemed so calm, with no panic, no running away, and no chaos. This made the entire aristocratic forces in the southern region puzzled. From their point of view, it was not surprising that the fourth prince was explaining, looking for reinforcements, or simply surrendering, but he did nothing, which made them feel very strange. Those are the 8 largest supernatural places in the south. These 8 nobles possess 2/3 of the power of the southern territory. Together, they are enough to sweep across the entire southern territory. Even if they didn't show up in full force, it was still not something that the fourth prince could contend with. Not to mention the fourth prince, even the eldest prince and the second prince are here. With their current appeal, they cannot organize a team that can fight against them. Among the current royal heirs, there is probably only 1/3 princess who can barely match her. Fourth prince, why do you dare to remain indifferent? Loud discussions resounded in various fiefdoms in the southern border. I said, are you trying to complicate things? A viscount shouted loudly, it's not like everyone doesn't know the virtues of the fourth prince. Even if he hides something, aren't the ridiculous things he has done true? In my opinion, the fourth prince is still the unbearable person who cannot hold up the wall with mud. There is no movement now, but he has just given up resistance. The remarks quickly spread like wildfire. It attracted the support of many ghosts. I think so. It's true. The fourth prince has a notorious reputation, is extravagant, and is violent and murderous. If he comes to power, he will definitely be a tyrant who can be punished by everyone. The Duke has seen this, so he sent troops in advance to defend the royal family. Save some reputation. It turns out that the fourth prince is not sure about his governance and development level, but about his status as a prince. Think about it, even if the Duke steps down on his territory, he is still a prince, and the Duke can't hurting him is what makes him confident. What a piece of trash. He is fine, but what he did will lead to the destruction of the border town and the death of hundreds of innocent ghosts. Such a person is not worthy of being a prince at all. Well done, Your Excellency, the Duke. Such a person should go back to the royal city. He should not be allowed to stay in the southern border to cause harm to the people here. In silence. The denunciation grew louder and louder. In the southern region, there was a wave of resistance against the fourth prince. It seems that the fourth prince is a great villain who preys on the common people, but they are all righteous people. Some people even shouted slogans. Justice will eventually defeat evil. The evil dragon will eventually be slain by the brave. A border town. Snapped. Ghost clerk Kali Till slapped a newspaper in front of Shen Jian's desk and said angrily, Your Highness, there must be someone who is adding fuel to the flames, otherwise public opinion would never develop so fast. We must counterattack, otherwise the reputation is really bad. She could tell at a glance that this was definitely related to the Duke of Southern Territory. Without the promise of Duke Elk, newspapers, which can be called a weapon of public opinion, would never have spread throughout the southern border in just a few days. There is no doubt that this is to build momentum. This is the public opinion effect specially created by Duke Elk in order to become famous. The purpose is to portray the fourth prince as a villain. In this way, the pressure will not be too great when recruiting. Shen Jian glanced at it. The body seemed a little tight. Sit up straight. After Kali Tir walked in, he subconsciously leaned his body against the table, so that unless someone stretched his neck and looked down, he would not be able to see anything unusual. Do it all. Shen Jiankei took a breath and said, "Don't pay attention to the child's tricks. Ignore it. Your Highness, you are confused." The ghost secretary was stunned for a moment, and then his voice became louder. Like an angry swan, holding its head high. She put her hands on the table, leaned forward in the direction of Shen Jian, and bit her lips, "Your Highness, don't underestimate this reputation. It is very important when you rise up, especially if you want to unify the Southern Territory. Reputation is important. It cannot be too bad, otherwise no nobles will be willing to surrender, and the people under your rule will not trust you, making governance more difficult." This sudden scene shocked Shen Jian. Fortunately, the angry noble lady didn't seem to notice anything. Just wrinkled his nose. "It seems to smell something special. But for a while, I couldn't figure out what it was." Then he returned his gaze to Shen Jian, his blue eyes full of anger. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. Looking at the series of questions listed in the newspaper, as well as the words evil man, evil dragon, brave man, etc., he thought about it and casually said, "Do you think the above content is wrong? I did break into Count Aynald's house, and I did kill a group of his men, dismembered one of his hands and one of his legs, and also bought and sold him by force, coerced and induced him to give the ghost craftsman to me. The one above the content is correct, it's correct, what should I refute?" Ghost scribe Kali Till. She was stunned for a moment. "Then I can't fix it anymore." "No. You are too arrogant. Even if you are a really evil person, you can't be described like this." "What about this? Count Ano said that you coveted his wife's appearance and couldn't take it by force. Then he got angry and poisoned and killed someone. This is not true at all. Your Highness, you just let him frame you." Kali Tire pointed at the words of Count Ano crying in the newspaper. He was so angry that he wanted to bite him to death. He dared to use the unsubstantiated matter to frame the fourth prince. Shen Jian was silent for a moment. His eyes glanced at the white meat under the table without leaving any trace. Before, this coveting was just an unfounded crime, but now, it seems that it can't be cleared away. But then I thought about it, and it seemed that the other things the fourth prince had done were not much better, and one more thing would not hurt at all. Thinking. Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. From time to time, his eyebrows frowned slightly for special reasons. History has always been rewritten by the victors. No matter how big the trouble they make, as long as they lose, everything will stop. As for the resistance caused by poor reputation, haha, the truth can only be grasped by within guns. We win, and we have the final say in everything. Calculating the time, it's time for the recruitment team to arrive. How is the arrangement of our personnel here?" Seeing that Shen Jian's mentality was not affected, Kali Tir also adjusted his emotions, and then said coldly, "Your Highness, after working hard for the past 3 days, the master craftsmen have forged 500 flintlock guns. The number has far exceeded the total population of the border town, so we found more than 200 civilians in the town next door, all at the redcoat level and below. And there is no need to worry that they will rebel. I have planted a supernatural curse on them. Once the weapon is released for more than 2 minutes, or a key word is spoken, the supernatural curse will explode instantly, causing him to self-destruct directly, destroying everything. Currently, 500 ghost gunmen are ready at any time." Shen Jian nodded slightly. "With 500 flintlock guns and a large amount of special bullets, even if the terror level of these ghosts is at or below the redcoat level, they can still crush an army of 4,000 evil ghosts. Not to mention 4,000, even an army of 10,000, as long as they can't get close, the military strength of the border town can crush and sweep them away. Get these people ready, it's time to fire the first shots of the armed forces." Kali Til nodded. With a little excitement and the hope of changing the situation in the kingdom, he walked out briskly. It was just after she left. What she didn't notice was that there was another person in Shen Jian's study. It's the Countess. She was hiding under Shen Jian's desk. With a pair of spring eyes, he squatted under the desk and looked down at Shen Jian. The red lips opened again. This day, the huge recruitment team finally headed to the border town amid the denunciation. There are more than 4,000 in number. At the front of the team was a group of elite knights headed by the Ghost King. They were wearing the finest armor and had the emblems of various noble families on their chests. The terrifying aura on his body is that of a Ghost King at the lowest level. Marquis Lanja played with his raised beard and looked at this elite division with great satisfaction. He is one of the only two marquises in the south, a genuine ghost and god, and an ally of Duke Elk. He was the one who took the lead in recruiting the 4th Prince's territory this time. I took a few glances. He looked away. Ordered to set off. There was no encouragement, no rest, and no mobilization. Because it's not needed. To conquer a 3-star supernatural place with enough power to sweep across the southern border is just like using anti-aircraft guns to kill mosquitoes, not to mention that there is a ghost like him leading the team. This expedition is undoubtedly a show. It was a warning to the 4th Prince not to extend his hands to the nobles' territory, let alone try to usurp the interests of the nobles, otherwise there would be a counter-attack from the south. Of course, there may be some intention to interfere in the trial of fighting for the king and test the royal family's thoughts. To this, he was equally excited. The other side. Behind the elite knights were thousands of red-clad ghosts. Among them, there are 8 players mixed in. Except for the Chinese man with the ID Fang Xiu who was unable to go on the expedition due to other reasons, the 8 Western Ghost Masters who descended on the southern border have all followed, with obvious excitement on their faces as they followed the team. They knew they were in the right place. If such an army of evil spirits launches an attack, everything in its path will be torn apart. What they should consider right now is not the danger, but how to kill 2 more people and make the Marquis of Ghosts and Gods who are traveling with them notice them. Just thinking about it. The procession stopped. The 8 Western Ghost Riders looked up. Not far away, the outline of a border town was looming. They were shocked. Knowing that this is the territory of the 4th Prince is also the beginning of their achievements.